Hello, everybody. Hope you guys are enjoying your Saturday morning. Today, we're going to be looking at your weekly forecast from the 22nd, which would be today, all the way until next Sunday, which would be the 29th. And we're going to be recapping or kind of forecasting with you what where you're going to be seeing your above or below average temperatures and precipitation anomalies, and we're going to be kind of mapping it out for you guys. And then also we're going to be looking at some special events at the end of the video, which are going to be occurring within this 7-day time frame. Now, we are going to start off here with our precipitation forecast, and we're going to actually be having a lot of below average this week, as well as coupled with some above average as well. So let's get right into it. We have below average spanning from California, Nevada, into Oregon, Idaho, Utah, Wyoming, Montana, up through the Dakotas into Minnesota, Wisconsin, Michigan, Iowa, and then really down into Missouri, Kansas, Oklahoma, Texas, Louisiana, Arkansas, Mississippi, Tennessee, Kentucky, and then through the Great Lakes states. So you would be talking about Wisconsin, Illinois, Indiana, Michigan, Ohio, West Virginia, and then as we get into the Northeast, it would be Virginia, Maryland, Delaware, and then stretching up through into New Jersey, Pennsylvania, New York, and then into all of New England. So that's where you're going to be expecting slightly below average conditions. And these aren't going to be too noticeable, but we will, on paper, it should be below average. Now, as we get into your second shade, here we have 3 pockets of moderately below average in this darker shade of brown. And this is going to be one area for California, really northern parts of California, then into Idaho, southern Montana, and northwest with Wyoming. And then as we get into parts of the eastern United States, stretching from Arkansas north into the Great Lakes and then east into the Northeast, you'll be seeing moderately below average conditions. Now, this will be more noticeable than the slightly below average, but still, maybe you might not even notice it still, but it will definitely be nice for Christmas week to have some drier than normal conditions. And then over to the Northeast and the Ohio Valley, you're going to be seeing actually well below average. I don't pull out well below average too much, but I do have to pull it out. No precipitation is expected for most of these areas, from Indiana, Ohio, eastward into West Virginia, Maryland, Delaware, Pennsylvania, New Jersey, New York, Connecticut, Rhode Island, Massachusetts, and then into northern New England, so Vermont, New Hampshire, and the southern 3/4 of Maine, where you're all going to be in those well below average areas. And the only reason the northern tip of Maine isn't in that well below average is because they're going to see a potential for a pretty good chance of seeing a clipper system kind of move through the northern sections of the state. So that's why that's the only precipitation that you look to get this entire week. So maybe a tenth of an inch of precipitation, very light accumulation. Now, here are your above average as far as precipitation layers go. Now, we have 3 areas. We have one for the southwest, so this would be for New Mexico, Arizona, even the panhandles, a little bit of the panhandles of Oklahoma and Texas, and then stretching into California and Arizona as well. This is where you could be seeing slightly above average precipitation. So again, not too noticeable, but on paper it should be above average in these areas. And then over for the northwest, over parts of eastern or western Montana, northern Idaho, and then also for Washington and Oregon, you're going to be seeing slightly above average conditions as well. Now, for the southeast, you're going to have this system as that's going to come through. You're going to get closer to 6 or 7 inches of rainfall in some areas. So of course you're going to be in the slightly above average area, as well as the northwest could also get closer to 5 or 6 inches of rainfall if this really outperforms with this system. Now, here we have even more areas areas of moderately above average. We have 4. We have one for Southern California, Southern Arizona. We have another one for Eastern Arizona, Western New Mexico. We have another one for the Southeast, so South Carolina, Georgia, Florida, and Mississippi or Alabama, I mean. And then we also have another area here for parts of Washington and Oregon, where you could be seeing moderately above average. Now, this is going to be fairly noticeable in this layer, depending on where you are, that it is going to be above average, that you are going to have a lot of rainfall or snowfall, depending on your elevation or how north you are. Uh, but for the most part, it's not going to cause too much travel headaches, except for when you get into this darkest shade of above average. So we do have to pull out the well above average layer instead of the well below average. Now it's the well above average. So a lot of differences in your in how much precipitation you're getting. We have two layers of this. We have one for South Carolina, Georgia, and Florida, where you're going to get a lot of rainfall, closer to 4 or 5 inches, 6 or 7 inches in some areas, and even the National Weather Service putting out closer to 10 inches for some areas. So very big deal here. Could cause a lot of flooding. But then we also have another area for Oregon and Central Washington, where you're also going to be well above average. You're going to have these lines of moisture just kind of pump through from the Pacific, and that's going to lead to a lot of moisture coming in that way, and that's going to lead to a lot of flooding, snowfall in the higher elevations. So that's why you are under well above average. Now, here are your temperatures, and this is your temperature anomalies. Now, we start off with California, where you're going to be well or slightly below average, and this is the only area in the entire United States on this map that is going to be below average. Because as we add our next layer, you're going to see a lot of the U.S. is actually going to be above average for Christmas, Hanukkah, all these holidays that you're going to be celebrating this week. It's going to be above average for most of you guys, and it's going to be slightly above average in this yellow, but as we add our next layer, this orange, it's going to be moderately above average. So this is spanning from Montana, Idaho, Oregon, eastward pretty much through the Rockies, through the Central Plains, through the Great Lakes, through the Southeast, and then really the interior Northeast and the Great Lakes is where it's going to stop. And for the East Coast, you're going to have a cool down early in the week, which is going to kind of tilt you only slightly above average instead of moderately above average, but you will get in on some of those higher than normal temperatures, some closer to 10 to 20 degrees above average. So a lot of the U.S. seeing that blowtorch really. It's going to be really warm over these areas from the 22nd and through the 29th. Now, here we have a third layer of above average, well above average here in this red, and this is for Wyoming, Colorado, and northernmost New Mexico. And then also we have another area excluding parts of northern South Dakota and southern North Dakota. You're going to be seeing it pretty much from Montana, Wyoming, eastward all the way until you hit the Great Lakes, and going to be really warm over these areas, consistently 10, 20 degrees above average for most of the week. And even though that does sound like a lot in the summer, this would be a bigger deal. But for really for winter, we are winter. We are in winter. This is the first full day of winter today, and for this time of year, it's really not really that warm, I guess you could call it. It would really be the 50s at most over these areas, especially these areas farther to the north. So these areas, even though you are well above average, don't expect any 70s or 80s. So still isn't shorts weather or t-shirts weather. It's just going to be above average for this time of year. So maybe some 50s creeping in as far north as Minnesota and North Dakota, and even parts of Wisconsin and the UP of Michigan. And 60s and 70s will be pretty widespread from the south central U.S. into the southeast, and even in parts of the southwest as well. Now, here are your special event segment of the video, and we're going to basically be highlighting storms that are going to be passing through, and I make videos on pretty much all of these storms if they do play out. Again, some of these storms are closer to 7 days out, so we're not certain on where they're gonna track or what's gonna really happen with them, but we can give you a general outlook here. So we have two big storms that are gonna be impacting coast to coast, and we have one for California, Nevada, Oregon, and Washington, and then of course as you get in the higher elevations and further east, you're gonna be seeing some snowfall. So this is for the Rockies, that's highlighted in blue. That's gonna be where you're gonna be seeing the most snowfall, and in the green, really for much of these lower elevation areas, it's going to be more of a rainmaker. And of course, if you live in the Sierras, if you live in the mountains in Washington and Oregon. Of course, you're going to be seeing some snowfall, but mainly these areas will be seeing rainfall. It's really dependent on your elevation. So if you usually see snowfall this time of year, then expect snowfall from this event. And then also for the southeast, this storm is from the 22nd to the 26th, and this storm is from the 22nd all the way till Christmas Day on the 25th. And this is really from eastern parts of Mississippi and Louisiana up through Alabama, southern Tennessee, and southern parts of North Carolina, and basically areas south and east of there. Now, we have our second special event, and this is going to be a big warm up for parts of the eastern U.S. And this is where you could be seeing temperatures 10, 20, 30 degrees above average in some areas. And that's really anywhere in this orange shade, you should be expecting some pretty warm temperatures for this time of year. And it's going to be taking place from the 22nd to the 29th and beyond. So this is really going to be going on basically until the New Year's, and then we kind of see a pattern switch with this storm that really is far out to say, but models have been indicating some sort of system riding and kind of moving north and east and bringing it behind it some really cold air, which is going to kind of switch the pattern for the eastern U.S. And really the western U.S. as well. The western United States is going to be seeing colder for now, and the east is going to be staying warm as pretty much for a whole. And that's really going to change. So maybe the west might actually get in on some of this warmer temperatures, and then east probably in some of these colder temperatures with this new pattern switch. We'll talk about that more as that does actually occur, and make sure that you are subscribed so that you know when I do make a video about that. Now, the final special note here, or the special event here, is going to be this Clipper system that's going to be going through Montana, North Dakota, South Dakota, Minnesota, into Wisconsin, Michigan, and up through into upstate New York, into Vermont, New Hampshire, and into Maine. You're going to be seeing a Clipper later on in the week from the 26th to the 29th. So this isn't certain that's going to happen, but there has been some indication. So just pointing it out that there will be there's the chance that you will see some clipper snowfall in this area, in this blue area. Anyways, guys, if you did enjoy the video, please consider liking the video, subscribing, and turning on notifications so you never miss a video when I upload. Anyways, guys, that was Eli the Weather Guy, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Goodbye.